Welcome to my channel, Taste the Globe. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to make Yangnyeom tong-dak, which is seasoned Korean fried chicken. Now if you've ever had this before, you know the two things that make this chicken special is one, it has a thin, very crunchy crust, and two, it's very spicy. So let's go ahead and get started and gather up all our ingredients. First thing we're going to need to do is get some ginger. So I have about a 2-inch knob right here that is peeled, and I'm going to use the fine setting on my grater. If you have a microplane, this works even better, but I don't happen to have one, so I'm using a grater for this. The ginger that we're grating today is going to be used for 2 separate steps. So our first step, we're only going to be using about half of it. Also, please make sure to be careful whenever using a grater. It's probably the most common cut that I see in a kitchen is people skinning their knuckle whenever they're using a grater. Now that we have our ginger all grated, we're going to go ahead and move our cutting board to the side because we're going to be working with some raw chicken. Now the chicken that you see, I seasoned it with salt about 2 hours ago and it's been sitting in the fridge. What that salt does is help draw out some of the excess moisture, and it's going to help give us a much crispier chicken. We'll be using paper towels to remove that liquid that has risen to the surface of our chicken. The process of using salt to draw out excess moisture is called macerating. We do this with a lot of different vegetables and items that we want to get a good crisp on. Be careful not to leave it in the salt for too long, otherwise it will begin to cure. Once you've thoroughly dried your chicken, we're going to be moving on to the next step, which is a quick marinade. That is what our ginger is for. We always want to make sure to practice good food safety, so we're going to go ahead and get rid of these gloves that I was handling the raw chicken. And now we're taking half of our ginger, adding it directly to our chicken, and we're going to add a little bit of ground fresh pepper. Now I use the term marinade loosely. Typically a marinade has wet components including a vinegar and an oil, but what we essentially want to do is impart some extra flavor. Make sure that those ingredients are mixed well. I've trained many cooks and chefs, and one thing I always try to impart is the food experience that you always want to create for whoever you're feeding is that in every bite they get the same flavors throughout the dish. Now that our chicken is covered, we're going to return it to the fridge and move on to our next step. Our next ingredient is going to be one of the components for our sauce, and that is garlic. You want to get this minced very fine. This is going to get added to the reserved ginger that we chopped previously. Now for this step, if you don't want to chop your garlic, you could actually use the grater, or you can use a garlic press. But I find that it's a little bit easier just to use your knife. Once you're satisfied that your garlic is chopped fine enough, you go ahead and gather it up and add it to your reserved ginger that we cut previously. Our ingredient list, as well as the quantities that we're using, can all be found in the description of this video. Our last chopped component that is going to be added to our sauce is white onion. Now I'm going to be grating this because I essentially want to reduce it down to a mush. This can also be achieved if you have a food processor. Now I apologize ahead of time for this step because these onions are just going to murder your eyes. I've been cooking many years, and I've heard many tricks to try to avoid your eyes tearing up when cutting onions, but to be honest, none of them have really worked out for me. The spring onion that I have on my cutting board is reserved strictly for garnish. You can cut these lengthwise or crosswise. Since it's just for a garnish, I'm going to go ahead and forgo showing you how to cut it. Go ahead and take that onion and gather it up with your chopped up garlic and your ginger. In our saucepan we have some heated oil, and we're going to add our ginger, garlic, and onion. We're going to be sauteing this to release some of the flavors, and it's going to provide a great base for our sauce. While you're sauteing all this, make sure that you're doing it over medium heat because you don't want to burn any of these ingredients. Now that our aromatics have been sauteing, we're going to be adding ketchup. Maintaining a proper temperature throughout this cooking process is going to help keep our ingredients such as ketchup and honey from scorching. Our next ingredient is rice wine vinegar. This is going to help add a nice pop that's really going to put our sauce over the top. For our sodium component, we're going to be using a little bit of soy sauce. Be careful with how much you use because soy sauce can get very salty as it heats up. So our next component, I'm using ground chili powder. If you have sambal chili paste or sriracha, or better yet, Korean chili paste, that works just as well. Now it's time to add our honey. Our honey is going to provide a nice balance of sweetness in contrast to the saltiness, and the spiciness of this sauce. It's also going to make our sauce a little bit more sticky so that it could cling to our chicken better. Once you've added your honey, make sure to mix all the ingredients very well. Throughout this sauteing process, I highly recommend using the fan to your hood or having your windows in your house open. The reason for this is whatever you're concentrating things like vinegar or chilies, those smells are going to be very abrasive. Our last ingredient going into our sauce is sesame oil. Now if you've ever had sesame oil before, you know that it's a very assertive flavor, so be careful when you're pouring it in, not to go overboard. Now that we have everything in the pan, what we basically want to do is keep it at a boil and constantly stirring it. We want to reduce it down, concentrating those flavors without anything burning. Being vigilant with your sauce and constantly stirring is what's going to prevent it from burning. The second you turn away from it is the second that it's going to burn. This is definitely not an item that you can walk away from. In total, this process will take you about 3 to 4 minutes. Continue this process until your sauce has achieved a syrupy consistency. Once your sauce is finished, turn off the heat and remove the pan from the hot surface. We want to take our chicken and dredge it in cornstarch. The cornstarch is the key to giving its really crispy consistency. We want to heat our oil up to 325 degrees, and we're going to do our first initial fry at this temperature. Now take your chicken and carefully place it in the oil. Now you can immediately tell that our oil is at the correct temperature because none of the cornstarch came off of it once it went in. So we're going to repeat this process for our next piece of chicken. Now today I am using chicken thighs that I deboned. I'm using these because it happens to be my favorite part of the chicken. You can essentially use any part of the chicken that you want, but I recommend using something small, such as legs or wings. Another crucial step whenever you're frying your chicken is to do it in small batches. If you have several pieces you're going to be doing, you don't want to overcrowd your pan. What this does is it releases more steam and it doesn't allow you to achieve the level of crispiness that we're looking for. Now factors such as what size piece of chicken that you're using or whether it has bones or is boneless is going to determine how long you're going to be frying it. For these pieces, I'm doing about 4 minutes per side. My goal during this step is to get the chicken cooked about 80% of the way. The main reason for this is we're going to be frying our chicken a second time. Because of this, we don't want to end up with overcooked, dried out chicken. Once we remove the chicken and set it aside to drain, we're going to be raising the temperature of this oil up to 375 degrees. Once our oil has reached the correct temp, this step is going to go very quickly. Our chicken is going to go in and you can see the oil will start to go crazy. We're only going to leave it about 2 minutes tops per side. Now that it's ready, we're going to remove it to drain. You can immediately see that we've reached the level of crispiness that we've been trying to achieve when you touch it with your tongs. Now it is time for us to sauce up our chicken. We're going to begin by taking some of our sauce that we built and adding it to a stainless steel bowl. Stainless steel bowls are great conductors of heat, and it's going to help when you put that hot chicken inside to make this sticky sauce coat the chicken completely. Now that our chicken is coated in the sauce, we can begin the plating and garnishing process. We do this by placing the chicken on the plate, and we're going to top that with a little bit of toasted sesame seeds. And we're going to take some fresh spring onions, and that completes our garnish. And there you have it. So as you can see, this dish is actually pretty easy to make. If you're new to Korean food, this is a good way to get yourself introduced to it because most people love fried chicken, and if you're a fan of spicy food, this will leave a pretty big smile on your face because this stuff is pretty great. Hopefully yours turned out as deliciously crispy as mine did. I'm sure it did. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. Please remember to subscribe because every week I post new videos of different cuisine from around the globe. So until next time guys, thanks for watching. Bye.